Okay, again, talking about the Boomerang Road Map here, and absolutely wonderful. We're getting some nice comments on the road map here about the results that they're getting already from the road map. Here's a piece that I put out on the blog here. It shows a chart here and everything. I'm going to show you some of these charts and specific indicators from the road map, but includes the precision price filters, price pressure bands, tick blast accumulation, and intraday short bias term channels. And the main part of it, a big part of it, features the key institutional level support and resistance readings, which is where, based on that and the other indicators I'm going to show you, you can catch the larger scale moves, or at least have a very good idea when they're going to occur and where they should actually go to. It'll actually give you that. I'll show you that. So you'll be quite amazed when you see it working. And you can purchase a road map. It's only $2.95. That's what a lot of these guys out there are charging just for one indicator. This is, like I said, 2 hours of instruction and a total of 5 or 6 total indicators that will help you read the underlying bias of the market and be able to forecast where the market's going next. So if you're familiar with, which I know most of you are, unless you're brand new to our trading room and everything, watching us here in the room here, the webinar, you're familiar with Boomerang Day Trader. I just showed you how today there was 3 winning trades on the mini NAS. I'm just going to use the mini NASDAQ contract, which I forgot to mention, by the way, we're trading in March now. Tomorrow is officially rollover, but I did a live check in our room, in our live trading room. We went over all the volume and the prices, and today was a good day to roll over. So you can roll over now to the March 2017 contract. Isn't that amazing? 2017. I mean, back in the 80s when I started trading, if someone would have talked about 2017, you would have thought, wow, that's like the space age. Will we ever get there? There's a lot of stuff going on back then, and some people wondered, will we ever get to the year 2000? And here we are entering into 2017 in a couple of weeks. It's quite exciting. But Boomerang is a very simple system, as you know, which trades trade channels it's just a very cut and dry system. We have the price or the trade channels that open up, and then we look at the trend bands here, the dynamic trend bands, which guide us in the trades. You can see if you just look at these trend bands, every time they cross over, the market will tend to move in that direction. So they're very extremely reliable in forecasting price movements. Sometimes the market goes flat and choppy, wants to work the upside a little more, then they cross over again and you get that reaction. They're so reliable that we've been able to turn that into a very, very good system for trading and scalping 3 points in the market. Well, what I've done now is introduced the Boomerang Road Map, which I told you about. And I'm going to show you right now some of those indicators on the Boomerang Road Map, starting with the real basics here. So what I'm doing is bringing up a NASDAQ chart, and I want to show you one of these indicators that is absolutely fascinating. You're going to take out your Bollinger Bands, you're going to replace it with what I call the price pressure bands. Now take a look at this. Here's a day where they're opening up here, the market's getting going. And I want to show you what happens here. Now, here's the market opening, and they're coming down right now. Notice on the price pressure bands, notice the dashed line. That's the lead line. That's where we're going to show the pressure change. Now, as they're coming down, notice right here where the band, I'm going to switch over real quickly to a regular pointer. Notice right here how exactly as they're dropping down here, how the lead line here, this dash line, again, this is replacing the Bollinger Bands on our regular Boomerang chart. When you buy the package here, the roadmap, you'll be able to have this instead. This one thing you can use for additional readings. It's very close to the Boomerang or the Bollinger Band 14 period, but look what the difference it does, what I invented for you. It took me quite some time to really get this exactly right and figure this out. As they cross over right here, see the dash line cross over, immediately the market stops dropping. drops back a little bit under the lead or the key line here, the average, and then look as it pops back up over the top of the downside here. Notice how the market starts moving up, and you even get a boomerang buy channel. Now on the upside, now that you're in the long side, you look at the upside and look how the lead line of the price pressure bands has crossed the upside, creating buy pressure on the upside. So now using this orange line here, which is part of, which I'll show you in a minute, it's called the boomerang filter. It's a new way to look at the dynamic trend bands and just look for the market to open a new buy channel and see the crossover of the cobra on the filter there and buy these pullbacks to the signal line. It'll get you in a lot of trades earlier. Once you have the confirmation of a bottoming here from the price pressure band and the upside getting going with the crossover here, you buy that pullback there, and this is the first indicator you'll use to show you how to hold out for a larger scale move, because you see as the market's moving up, and the hyper scalp, which you own Boomerang, you should already have hyper scalp, and you'll see hyper scalp now kind of took off. A lot of times if the market's really powerful, you'll get a move as high as 8 points to 10. So I'll just mark this line here. You can see it tapping out there. 5 is normal, but sometimes they'll tap as much as 8 to 10 on a real blast. But notice how the price pressure band lets you ride that trade. I'm going to go back to the cursor now. And again, this will just be a real brief discussion on the roadmap. As your entry comes in here at 47.50, essentially, if you look over on the far right, see where it's wiggling there, 47.50. If you held that all the way to where the pressure bands came and crossed under this, it didn't end the move, but it showed where a significant blast came and a little bit of a break. They went all the way up to 47.68. You see that? So instead of taking a 3-point move watching the pressure bands, you had the opportunity to trade them all the way up until this area around 68. And then the market continued and moved higher. Once again, started taking a break as they, look at that, right exactly where they crossed back under, the market took a break and jammed higher again, but with the price pressure band under the key average there. You see that? That means topping action most likely. Now, if you're real good at using hyperscalp, which we train you how to do that with the videos, you can see hyperscalp peaking up here, moving substantially higher with the price pressure band under here, and look at hyperscalp dropping down significantly, and also on bias index number 2 losing force. This is a market force indicator here. Then with the pressure band under the white line up here still, and prices trying to jam higher, look at hyperscalp dropping significantly along with the market force indicator. This is radical divergence up here. So what you do when you see a setup like that, and again, this is something you can practice on your own, but it's not an official Boomerang setup. I'm just showing you how you can do this, and I explain it on the videos that you get with the roadmap. You can short here on the pressure band at 88, and then they bring them down before they tap the band again down here around 76 for 12 points. You see that? So ultimately you could have rode this for 16 points and this for 12 points just following the price pressure bands. But there's a lot more to the roadmap. This one indicator alone is easily worth the 295. But you know, being the kind of guy I like to give you a really good deal, and I haven't put out an indicator since hyperscalp. This was almost 3 years ago, I think. So I'm not one that just puts out indicators like a lot of these vendors out there on Ninja that want to just sell you indicators all day long. And they got so many of them. I see it all the time. Even guys I kind of respected, then I see them start pumping out the indicators. I'm going, oh boy, come on, buddy. If your system doesn't work, adding more indicators to it isn't going to help it, right? Geesh. Anyway, You can use these in a variety of ways, but that's one of the key ways is to read divergence with hyper scalp and the bias index number 2 using the pressure bands. Once again, here's the market dipping down here. I can show you many examples, and look, all of a sudden as it crosses up here, it's just telling you that the bottoming is probably coming in here, and then they of course blast higher. But look, you had an opportunity with a new buy channel opening up, price pressure bands crossing the upside. If you're long, you want to look for that after you look for the bottoming. So it's telling you in advance, hey, I'm probably bottoming here. And then when they cross over in the upside, you buy that pullback signal line in line with the boomerang rules, and you got more incredibly accurate information telling you I'm bottoming, and wow, now I'm blasting higher, get long. You got that extra confirmation. How valuable is that when you're trading with Boomerang? This is one of the most valuable tools to have when you're trading with Boomerang, to have confirmation of the trade. What do we all want when we're trading with Boomerang is you want to trade and have confirmation. So here, same thing, topping right up here. See how the cross is right here, right in this candle. There's topping action right there. Look at that coming in. Now down here, right here is where they cross over the downside. You wait for your confirmation of the matching dynamic trend bands, or in this case, you can also use this orange filter, which is part of the Boomerang filter, which is another one of the indicators that comes with this. And you can just trade a pullback under the indicator, under the filter, a yellow dot under the filter, which has the matching DTBs as well. Matching filter on the downside, you get short and you got that extra confirmation, and down they go. Now if you ride, notice how the off the downside, at least temporarily. So if you got short at 88, normally would be out right here, 3 points. But this gave you an opportunity to hold with the price pressure bands all the way down to 78, so a 10-point type of move. You see that? Very good opportunity there to make more points. Now, if you could double the size of your Boomerang trades from 3 to 6 points using just this tool, how much is that going to be worth? Price pressure bands. You see how valuable that is? When you're buying trading equipment, you don't want to look at it like getting a discount at Kmart on a lawnmower. These are tools that make you money. My tools at least are. They're designed to make you more money. So they're actually more than free. They actually pay you to own them. So I'm just giving you that idea, but it's not how much is it. You have to look at how much money you made trading with Boomerang and how much more you can make using the price pressure bands. So here they are here. Look at this. Hopping up here, crossover here. No trade there. There's no trade there unless you were using the Boomerang filter. You can just simply say the Cobra crossing over the orange filter here. As long as you got the dynamic trend band number 1, okay, you can buy that pullback sig line. You got the crossover here on the price pressure band, so there they go. They ran them up. Now look at this. You did get that 3-point run up, which is still our core strategy, up to, actually they went from 77 up to 82. The price pressure band crosses over right here as it squishes together on this candle. You see it squishing together, gives you a little early warning, and then there was a crunch candle here. I call them crunches when they get hit to the downside. And now it's signifying that the upside is getting a lot of pressure to stall. And then what happens right here? That's right, this downside line creates buy or sell pressure here with the opening of the new downside on the price pressure bands. So what happens here? Price is trading under the orange filter line. Again, this orange filter is part of the new Boomerang Road Map. You trade a pullback the sig line, and you follow the trend bands until they cross down here. And you can also follow hyperscalp down here too. So 75 came down when hyperscalp was getting nailed down here. 75 came down to 69.50. So again, a little larger scale move. Then they get choppy. I'm just showing you some examples of the price pressure bands, and I'll go on to our other indicator. We're getting later in the day here, but same thing. Notice they kind of, with all the whipsaw coming in here, is causing that. But still, the price pressure bands crossed over, signifying an end is near. And even though it was real whipsaw and choppy in here, look how they held above this solid white line telling you a bottom is in. Then they start doing this herky-jerky dance to the upside, back and forth. You've seen a lot of this lately. But look at that. Upside opens up here as the dash line crosses up above there. A pullback the sig line crossing the filter, and up they go. Anyway, just an example. That's how the price pressure bands work in relation with hyperscalp and the bias index number 2, otherwise affectionately known as the market force indicator. Okay, so now I'm going to move on and show you another part of the Boomerang Road Map. It's not the whole thing. Remember, there's 2 hours of instruction. When you get good at using the Boomerang Road Map, like many of our traders already are, you are going to be able to read the bias like reading a book. You'll be able to just pick it up, look at it, and say, here's where the market's going, here's where it's going to stall, and here's exactly or very close to where it's going to go back to. So what I have up here now is another portion of the road map, not the whole thing. I'm not going to show you the whole thing, but I'm going to show you portions of it so you can see how amazing it is. Now I know there's a lot of lines here, but when every single line has extreme value, you're just like an air pilot in a cockpit reading all the gauges. They have, I mean, if you looked at an airplane cockpit, there's 40, 50 gauges that they know how to read intimately. A surgeon knows how to use all his tools. He's got 2 or 3 people with him, an anesthesiologist, so many things. He knows all about anesthesiology. That's not his job, but he certainly knows everything or most of what that anesthesiologist does to do his job because he has to oversee everything. We're surgeons. We're in the market. We're doing precision surgery on the market using these precision tools. I used to have, I've had 3 incidences where surgeons have attended my live webinars and I got to talk to them during breaks and stuff. And they all told me, they said, what we do is easier than what you do with trading. Because at least with that, we have protocol for everything that can go wrong. But this stock market and the futures trading, there's you can have protocol for what to do when things go wrong. A lot of times that's tightening a stop or getting out with a stop, but it's an open book as to what can happen, as we witnessed today at 11:30 Eastern Standard Time when we had this surprise blast to the moon on the market. Anyway, back to the roadmap. So what has happened here now is 2 things. The one filter is still in here, this thin line. I've added the second part of the boomerang filter, which is this thicker dash line. And that's going to come in relation to something in a second, which I'll show you, which you'll really like. And we've also, these other lines here are part of what's called a volume weighted applied price average. In other words, the volume is applied to the price, and it's a little bit complicated formula, but the volume weighting is applied to the price at different levels. Now watch what happens. This is used by institutions to determine when to buy or sell securities. In fact, they'll get in trouble if they don't use this approach to buy when things are discounted and not buy when things are topping out. That's what they're trained to do, so they have to do that. So the center of these volume weighted lines, it's a special formula again for institutional buying and selling. You have the extreme levels, which are the red lines here. The normally what are generally where the market will run during normal conditions are these magenta colored lines, and the blue lines on both sides are surrounding this central gold line. The gold line, I call it a magnet because that's where prices are going to tend to be pulled back from when they get extremes on either the sell side or the buy side. And that's why institutions, they like to buy at a discount. If they're buying, they like to buy at a discount to the gold line, and they like to sell stock, because you can put this on a higher time. You can put it on a 1 month time frame and have these same lines, or you can put it on a 1 week time frame. You see, we use it intraday, and watch how accurate it is. So here's the mark. Now, by the way, this crossing down of this filter here, again, this is an advanced study in Boomerang. This is not, if you're brand new to Boomerang, this is not part of Boomerang. This is only for those who've had Boomerang, and it's an advanced study. Now, you can apply it to any stock or futures contract or ETF and get an excellent instant reading on what you want to do with that price of that instrument. But for our Boomerang readers, it's used intraday on a 450 tick chart, and it's not part of Boomerang. It doesn't come with the Boomerang package. It's a separate package, but it's only $2.95. Watch what happens. So here's the market opening coming in the top hour at 10 o'clock. This is a West Coast chart, so it's moving up. First of all, you had the filter line cross under the gold line. This is an orange line. They look about the same color, but it's a filter line crossing under, and prices are now moving up above the filter, the dash line, and they're moving up above the gold line after doing what first? That's right, coming down and tapping the red line here. Now, with either the price tapping this red extreme line on the downside, or the Bollinger Band tapping it or running in very close to it. A lot of times it'll be exact, sometimes just very close. What that tells you is that when you get a counter Boomerang buy channel, and especially one here that is so close to the gold level, you can practically with great assurance know that the destiny of those prices here are at least to the blue line, and in many cases up to the magenta line again, before they start getting a little bit tired. So if you're long down here on this Boomerang trade, which is right here where you see the Boomerang trade setting up, again with the Cobra crossing over and crossing over the orange filter and moving up, you can plan your trade there around 48.56 to run in most cases up to the magenta line up here, which ran up to, which is 48.71. So from 56 to 71, you see what I mean? That's a 14-point move. So as you get in the Boomerang trade, you say, wow, they hit the really extreme exhaustion level. They're moving back over the gold line. They're magnetizing up to the gold line. I'm in a Boomerang trade long. I'm going to hold, let's say, at least to the blue line. So you're long at 56. You're going to at least look to hold up to 65. But you say, no, because that was such an extreme move, I'll bet they're going to go at least to the magenta line. So you're long at 56, and here they go hitting the magenta line up here at 72 for a 14-point move. Well, they continued higher, and that's okay, no big deal. In fact, the market is really strong, so they did what? They blasted a little further. I don't know where this is going, so I'm just going to show you because I know I have so much confidence in what I've done and built for you here that I'm not worried about it. You can see the band coming up here, very close to tapping the extreme. You don't often see the prices hit these red zones on here. And all these lines are adjustable. You can make them smaller or bigger or change the colors or whatever, but I have a default way of looking at them that is very simple to read on the black chart. Well, now you say, this is hitting extreme levels, so I'm going to watch for the next Boomerang short, and I'm going to consider that odds favor that the market has a destiny to be attracted magnetically back to this yellow line here, this gold line, which is the center of the road map there. So now you get a short coming in here, not quite ready yet because you don't have, you have the crossover here, but they're still pushing the upside like trades often do. And you notice this filter's still holding up here. Yeah, they cross under this one, but you know, when you get a bullish move like that, you got to let it play out a little bit. So now here they are, they're kind of getting choppy up right around the, notice it's right around exactly around this filter here. Now they're coming in looking to get on the sell side up in here, and they start selling off. But look at that. Look where the prices run. Right back to the gold line, and then that was into the close there. Again, this is an intraday move, but you can see that had you gotten short up in this area here and you tolerate a little pressure on the trade, you would have been able to track them down lower. Now, if you had the price pressure bands on here, you could have done one of those moves like I just showed you on the tape here, where they ran up and tapped the price pressure band after hitting divergence up here, and you could have got short up there. Again, it's not an official boomerang trade. It's something I'm just showing you as an advanced boomerang trader and researcher in the markets. And you could have held that knowing after they ran up all the way close to this red line up here, very extreme move, that odds are these prices up in here had a date with this gold line, this magnetic line down here. And sure enough, they went through and exceeded it into the close and then kind of bounced back up to it into the close. Now they're going to recycle after the market closes. That's no big thing. What you do is you just leave your computer on overnight, and if you need to do your reboot, if you have your virus software running and all that, like I do and everyone should, just leave your computer running and then reboot it an hour or two before the market opens the next day, depending on which market you're trading, you know. That's the key, because that way once you do a quick reboot and you bring it back up, all these levels will stay. Otherwise they're developed over time on the Globex sessions, so you need to have that running. And I explained that in the video. Let's do another one here. So here's the prices hovering here above the gold line temporarily, but notice you get this crossover starting to occur of the filter here getting ready to cross, and you have the dynamic trend bands, which, as we all know, are about an 80 to 85% accuracy when they cross, creating a move in that way. So you have the filter crossing under the gold line after pushing up here, hitting, notice how the Bollinger Band here in pre-market up here and up here is tapping and trading above this magenta line, which is usually where they will often hold support or resistance. Sometimes, like on this particular day, which day was this? Was 11:30. They were really making more extreme moves, which that's fine. That's what they do. But you knew once they were hovering around the gold line, you had this cross under here, and you had the dynamic trend bands, that they had a date with the at least the red line down here, and with the brand new crossover, probably even a little further to go. So as the market starts selling off, you can see here coming in the bands testing, but brand new crossover, and the dynamic trend bands are crossing and they're holding. Now the dynamic trend bands are starting to bottom out. You will also, I don't have them on here, but you'll have your price pressure bands that tell you when a bottom is starting to come in. And now here's an extreme move down here with the market sliding and the Bollinger Band sliding way under the red line. You will know, although I don't want to put this too far ahead because I don't want you to, I don't need to look at it. I can tell automatically this area here has a date with destiny of retracing at least up to this gold line again, wherever that'll be when it gets up there, and potentially the blue line, because this is a very extreme washout move on this red level here. Now let's see what happens. I'll just forward it here. Okay, well, what they did was they went up to the blue line here, the first level resistance. This was a really bearish market, and you could have known that by looking at the higher time frames and all that, but clearly this was a very bearish market here. So they did what? They started descending lower. So when you see them moving up and failing to get seriously going over the filter here and still holding above the gold line, it just tells you watch for your next boomerang short to potentially hold that longer, with the dynamic trend bands matching as they go down and visit at least, they're up here, the magenta line again. So here they are at 44, and the magenta line's down here at 31. Substantial move. And then you just watch, same thing, the Bollinger Bands or the prices tapping the magenta line. And now from here, this is, say you're trading with this, all you're seeing is this here. You should have a very good idea that this market has a date with the gold line up here. They're trading at 48.24, and at this time frame, the gold line is up there at 55, 25 handles higher or more. So let's see what happens. Pretty bearish day, that's for sure. So they continued to make a lower low here. Finally caught support. And the session ended. So it's just a big down day on this particular session. This was the day I remember now. This was the 30. This is the day the Nasdaq got hammered, but the Dow was up. It was one of those weird divergence days that we've been having lately with the Nas and the Dow. But still, you can see that from these lower levels, you can know that when they're tapping these magenta levels and all that, they have a date at least with the blue line. See, like this red line here, at least has a date to move back up to the blue line, most likely the in a stronger market back up to the gold line or higher. But in this case, it was just a hammered Nasdaq day market. If I put this map up on an S&P chart, it would look completely different because the S&P was diverging and much stronger. So let me show you one more day and then we'll move on. I didn't want to have this run too long. They continue the downside slaughter. The filter is still holding under the gold line as it was the day before, and they're running across the magenta line, and now you'll know that they should be able, from this level here, and the price pressure bands would tell you where a bottoming effect has taken place, that on this next boomerang trade here, you should at least be able to get them up to the blue line. But that's enough information there just to tell, instead of going for 3 points at 46, hold them up here to 57. You see, it's a 10-point move. Just telling you that above the filter, they should be able to get the blue line, most likely retrace all the way to the upside to the gold line again. But this was just a really bearish period. So once again, flopping below the gold line here, the filter, the big part of the filter, they just continued their downside slide here, telling you to get shorts out of here. And you can see they're kind of hovering closer to the blue line here because they want to retrace back up to the magnetic gold level. Now, I don't want this to seem too complicated for you, but I wanted to record some things about the roadmap so you'd understand more. And this was a very bearish period. Here again, coming up to the blue line area here, this dotted blue line, and failing again, but now into the close. Finally now, the gold line overnight on Globex, everything's synced up, and they're pushing back up, again, trying to reach up to that red line. And you can see here, let me find one more example of a more normal flowing market rather than just two hammered days, which still gave us a lot of information. But here they are running up to this red extreme level again, and look at that, pulling right down to the gold level. So if you're up here and you see the market using your other tools, that this is a topping area, very, very good odds up there at 58 that you can know in advance that I'll hold, because this is what your chart will look like. You say, I'm getting a topping area. Very, very strong odds that they'll pull back to the gold level here at 32. So they're trading at 58, and you can, with great confidence, know that they'll come back at least to the filter and probably to the gold line. And so that's substantially more than a 3-point move. So they come right down to the gold line here, bounce a little bit, and they're still holding support. The filter's above the gold line, so there's going to tend to be support unless you start seeing the market start working its way substantially lower under the gold line. Now the filters have changed, and the price are selling off down to the blue level. You see, and you say, well, let's see if they're going to start moving up. So here they are back to the gold line Odds favor a move from here, from this new boomerang long trade with the DTVs matching up, at least a move from 31 to the blue line up here at 45. You see? So that's going to help you in advance calculate 31, and I have no idea where it's going next, but at least a blue line and very possibly a trip all the way to the magenta line. So they did indeed run up to the blue line, and if held, they ran all the way up to where the Bollinger Bands, not quite the price of the BBs, are just about tapping the magenta line up there, as I said. And I didn't know where this chart was going to go. I just kind of grabbed it and put the road map on this earlier, getting ready for the seminar. So from 32 all the way up to 58, you see? That's how you can catch the larger scale moves with a lot of confidence. And then, of course, after tapping up here at the magenta line, they're magnetizing. Again, you should be aware that once they do this, they're going to be magnetizing back towards the gold line again. So look what happened. As they went up there, look at that, came exactly back to the gold line and stalled, bounced back up to the blue level, lost ground under the filter and under the gold line. And again, depending on how weak or strong the overall higher time frames in the high 5 were up here in the market, and we show you how to read that on the report, How to Read the Market Like a Book, on my Day Traders Action site, you are now seeing that the prices are trying to hold up and they're just kind of hovering into the close. So the roadmap combined with these indicators is absolutely fantastic. Like I said, you have the price pressure bands here, which give you additional information how to hold these trades for longer moves. And this is one of the most confident ways I've found to trade the market for the larger scale moves on Boomerang. Absolutely wonderful. And again, you can adjust these lines to anything you want. Take them down a little less or make them bigger, change the colors, whatever you want. So that's just a partial presentation. Again, 2 hours of training on all kinds of things, just working these shorts off a divergence, open the road, open the sky, I should say, open the sky up for much larger scale moves. I can show you a couple quick examples of those, and then I'll move on with the rest of our webinar here. I love divergence trading. It's using our tools here, you'll have the best opportunity at divergence trading because it's crystal clear. It's not just vague. You have the hyper scalp, the market force indicator, and combined with the price pressure bands, it's absolutely stunning what you can do. For example, this is a move that's just going to turn around because it's coming off the opening here and they're selling off the price, the heavy slam down here on the hyper scalp and a good solid slam down to this green line here. Pressure bands cross over. Talk about bottom fishing, tipping off the bottom. Look at that right there, exactly as they're bottoming. The price pressure bands cross over, move up, and they start to climb up here, taking you all the way up here. Now we looked at this, I think this same chart a little bit earlier if I recall. And again, divergence works so well because as the prices move up, you get a feeling for where divergence is going to hit. Now, if you got in a little too early, for example, on this one, you saw the divergence coming in, and you want to sell them right here on the price pressure band. You can see there that 78 came down to 72, so it was still a good 6-point move there. They will give you the opportunity to read that into the market. Same thing here, moving up, crossing over, topping, but the market's persisting because it's got a lot of bullish juice left in it here. They're still trying to persist, but not for long because you notice on the hyper scalp and the weakening of the market for it. In other words, as they bounce higher, exceeding this high, what happens? Oh my God, the hyper scalp drops substantially below this little white line here, and the market force drops under the red line. So you got a higher move. If it was so bullish, these market force histograms would be hitting or exceeding these levels up here. Instead, they're dropping really low. There's your short signal. Short them right here on a tap on the, you can, tells you exactly where to get in. You short them on a tap here, right here, of the price filter or the price pressure band dashed line there, and they come down from 96 down to 88. Oh, wait till you get this and start working with it. You'll be shocked at how accurate your trading will become. You'll be going, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm getting reports like that now, getting emails from traders saying I paid for the thing in one small trade with one contract, and I've been going at it all day, and they're just quite happy with it. So let me find some other examples of typical divergence. Here's one. Here's a big move on the downside, right? So here goes the market. You see the price pressure bands cross. There was no boomerang signal here, but because there was no signal and the bands crossed, you can trade a what? Little quiz for you. I said it earlier. That's right. You got no signal here, but you can trade a pullback to the Cobra, which occurred right here. Price pressure bands crossed under here, but you can still, following that rule, you can trade a pullback to the Cobra, and they put a little pressure on the trade there, no big deal, and then they cross over and they're back down on the downside in a fast, heavy way. So you've got, here's hyper scalp getting blasted down here with a lot of market force on it. Second level blast here, if I scrunch the chart up, you can see that it was actually a third level move, but on this one they blasted a lot higher, so you're not going to be watching for divergence just yet. You got to be a little bit careful here because that's a lot of market force there. So they tried to flip back up, and you got the crossover and everything in the filter. You did get a trade here. Well, not actually. Technically, you have the price pressure bands coming in here, and they traded up a little bit, but it was really a bigger scale move. So on the downside, there was a lot of pressure on the downside, but they did rebound back in here. There's a little fluctuation in here, but after the price pressure bands crossed back to the downside, coming in under the dynamic trend band, now you got more pressure coming in. But look, they're not giving us any signals to get in practically on Boomerang, but that's why I'm recommending for our advanced traders using the pressure bands and the filter here. You can take those trades now in the channels that are coming under the filter here, the new roadmap filter, and the price bands crossing here. You see that? See how they're crossing under and then under the filter, so you can take that trade where normally we would be looking for these to match color. Now this trade can still be taken because they missed. If you look at the regular method, the default method, you're waiting for the bands to match color or crossover. Well, if the signals are used up here, then you can trade a pullback to the Cobra and go short here, which is fine. That's totally valid rule for Boomerang. But what you could have done using the roadmap with the price pressure bands and seeing the signal line coming under this filter, you could have got short here for 3 points and then taken that trade to the Cobra again, following the core rule of Boomerang for another move down. And you could have followed this trade using the roadmap all the way down here. Look at how the filter or the price pressure bands kept you in the trade until they crossed here. Sure, they went a little lower, but the idea is that's where a lot of the selling pressure led up right here. So at least it gives you a hint of that. You're short and they jump a little and they come down here, then they blast a little bit lower, so you're able to get out. And then here, this is where divergence becomes a little bit more prominent because you can count the Elliott waves, right? 1, 2, 3, huge wave 4. This was actually an Elliott wave 4 here, and then a wave 5 blast all the way down here. And if you're Elliott wave counter like I am, this is where you get some really good divergence moves, and you can try to pick those off. Here's how you do it. Now this is the hardest part because when people are trading Elliott wave, and I don't want to sound too complicated, but you get A waves, B waves, C waves that give you opportunities to enter back in the trade on a B wave. Well, look how the price pressure band actually measures the B wave here. Here's the fifth wave washout move, just gut wrenching slam to the downside. But as the price pressure bands cross over here, there's a tap here and another one here on the price pressure band, which runs up 25, runs up to 37. And that was your B wave reflex move. Very weak though, because once again the NASDAQ was getting pounded. So all of a sudden they're back on the sell side. And once again, using the same core method, but you can also, if you own the roadmap, you can use this simpler method to get in trades that may not be quite setting up on these with just watching for the Cobra to cross over the filter, trade the signal line pullback. But here you could have got in way down in the tap on the first tap down here on the price pressure band at 23, and they ramped up to 36. Huge move there. So similarly here, as the dynamic trend bands widen out here, telling you probably an end of a move, you also look up here, you see the price pressure bands have crossed under, telling you, uh-oh, caution. You see up here, no market force on this move. We caught this ramp up here using that method, but look at all the market forces, so weak, you should be going, uh-oh. And then you get the price pressure band cross under, and now they get slammed, and then you watch for boomerang yellow dots under this orange line filter with the price pressure band. You see that crossing over? It actually crossed on this candle, especially on this one. Then they're under the filter, and then you can follow that all the way down. Look at the price pressure bands keep you in all the way down to here. And then that's when the pressure of the selling kind of eased up as they crossed under here. Now again, another divergence move here as, look at this, big slam here on our market force indicator and the hyper scalp. And look at this last big slam here, just people, bulls dumping it here going, God, I can't take anymore. They're just dumping it, and that's causing more selling pressure. But look how all the pressure lightens up here. So now you're going to once again look for what? A tap on the price pressure band on the dashed line. And that's exactly right here where the market went to after they rebounded after this divergence smash. They rebound up, they came right back, tapped the price pressure band, and ran from 15 up to 28. So again, just a way to measure these things. And of course, if you had the weighted average lines in there, you would have known, because this was definitely, I can tell you without looking at it, was smashing into a red line resistance area, support area. So hope you appreciate this rather elaborate demo that I didn't expect to be this long, but that's, I get involved. I get into it, and I like to show you as much as I can. So really appreciate it.